Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pascal Gallard, and I'm working in the non-stop system company. Okay. It's better, thanks. I'm working in the non-stop system company. Non-stop system is just a few words about my company. We are an IT services company dedicated to high availability in infrastructure, systems, such kind of thing. And we are working on such areas since more than 1 decade now. Today I'm going to talk you about a French R&D project named Nuage. And Nuage is a cloud project funded by the French government. The project started 2 years ago now, and we'll close this project in the next July. So the particularities of this project is mainly to be a project from SME and dedicated to SME. SME means small or medium enterprise, small or medium company. So we are 6 SMEs, mainly dedicated and expert in different areas needed in order to create cloud. So we, among our participants, we have data storage operators, carrier operators. Sorry. It was in order to not forget. Sorry. So it was. So we have several partners just in order to bring a kind of different cloud. Different means, in our view, we don't want to have a cloud based on one DC somewhere in France and everything starting from this DC, and all people needed to use resources from the cloud have to connect to this DC. As an opposite side, we think about to create a mesh of data centers equally located throughout all the territories, and we think the cloud as a kind of distributed infrastructure spread all over this cloud, all over these data centers, and providing resources on demand to users, to customers. So currently we are working on 4 DC, and we manage all our networks between these DC. So our assumption currently is to say we think the cloud that the users are using should be part of their own private infrastructure. We think that as soon as they request some new resources, they want that new resources to be part of their infrastructures as regular owned resources. So this is the first point. The second point is a quite simple idea. Network might be an issue. So most of the time we want to use resources as close as possible for performance reason, but in the same time we want to use remote resources in order to get better cost, in order to get better resilience in our resource management. So we have to think about how we can trade. We have to find a trade-off between these two issues. And finally, we think about this cloud, Nuage, as a way to provide quality as a tools in order to create quality of services inside companies, and as a tool in order to improve this quality of service and reduce, of course, the operating cost, mainly regarding network or power consumption. So very briefly, what we are targeting is, let's think about a small company with one main locations running main part of the ITs. And this company has several secondary locations different from the first one. And so in that case, we have two remote location and one remote working guys. And currently, most of the time, we create a kind of big VPN between all these locations, and people that need people from one location need to use some resources from another location, go through the networks, and it should work, hopefully. Now, if we think about if the company is growing and say, okay, we need another kind of first or primary IT site, so they create a new site, add it in the networks and the VPN and so on. Finally, when they start to have very big needs, they start to use DCs, and again, the DCs are just a bunch of hardwares rented in the DCs and connected to the networks as a VPN component. Okay, so this is some of this is quite representative of the architecture we met in our customers. Now, so this is the first point. As a second point, I will introduce how we design the topology of Nuage, and in the third point, I will make the two points in one big picture. So currently, Nuage, as I said, is a mesh of data center, and we design data centers as three kind of type of data centers. First, we define national DCs. That means it's more or less tier 3, tier 4 data centers, highly interconnected by high bandwidth networks. In that case, it's 10 gigs networks on dedicated dark fiber between all the centers, all the DCs. And currently, we have two DCs in Paris, one in Toulouse and one in Lyon. The second step, we define regional data centers, and each regional data centers has to be connected to one or two national DC. And the purpose of regional DCs is to be a point of presence in region from the mesh we are working on at the national level. So in that case, the regional DC located in Rennes is connected with two links with two national DCs, and we think about some others. Finally, we have the point of an IT room. An IT room is just the bunch of hardware you can have in your company, in your services, or something like that. And this IT room has to be connected to the closest location from Nuage as possible. And in that case, we have 3 remote locations connected to regional DCs. Okay, so this is how we design Nuage currently from data center point of view. Now, if we, okay, so this is in order to say we did it. We have 2 data centers since last year and 2 data centers since this year. And we are working on a kind of containership data center, kind of ready plug-in containers to Nuage. So the point for us is to say, okay, now if I want to connect my company to such architecture, what's the point? The point is to say, okay, if I have two primary locations, maybe this 2.1, we need two remote locations, and let's say this 2.1, and finally my remote worker. And we want, with Nuage, to be able to interconnect all these resources in dynamic cloud, because as part of our services, we can replace on demand any failed resources on this topology. So if at one time the company lose one DC, and we are targeting the failure of the complete DC, if at one time the company loses, for instance, a DC, we are able to, at any time, recreate these DCs on another available resources from the Nuage cloud. So, okay. How it works, we are mainly working at the very low level resource management, and from the memory and CPU point of view, we are using VM from OpenStack, and we are deploying one OpenStack infrastructure per rack. In our case, we are defining the rack system, that means a bay with several hardwares, as our unit, and we are connected several racks all together in order to provide our cloud, our distributed cloud. So from the storage point of view, we are working on designing and building a distributed iSCSI target. The point is to be able to migrate VM from one bay to another bay, but also from one DC to another DC without any kind of service failure. The third point is about network. We are working heavily on network overlay, network virtualization. For instance, we are working, if we think about networks from outside Nuage to inside Nuage, we work with a protocol named Lisp, and the purpose of Lisp is to be able to move virtual machine from one DC to another DC without any kind of interrupt. And for instance, we have some nice demonstration with broadcast system moving from Paris to Lyon, and the customer don't notice any interrupt on his movie thanks to this protocol. So this is part of our works, and between DCs and inside the DCs, we are working currently with IP-like links, mainly because it's the one suggested by Neutron currently. So finally, we are working on a high-level quality of service policy management with some probes. Since we are working at the very low level of resources, we can provide our own low-level probes, and we are using these probes in order to monitoring hardware's PDU data center itself, because we think data centers is an hardware component like any other hardware component in the cloud. And all this information are managed in order to take some decision, migration or placement policy. Okay. So finally, in our view, it's your DC because our customer can use their own resources, their own current hardwares. Just they connect these hardware to the cloud. And in the same time, it's a car because at any time, if the customer wants to replace part of all of his own resources by Nuage resources, it's also possible. So during the next months, what we are going to distribute is a design of an eco-efficient IT containers and DC containers. This is for the container mobile part of Nuage. We are, of course, working on an open architecture in order to allow mesh of data centers. And we are working in order to complete the OpenStack software with plugin dedicated to manage, for instance, a plugin dedicated to manage lists, plugin dedicated some other resources we need at our low level. And we are building we are building this mesh of data centers, and we create the idea of a kind of a cloud connectors. That means with a component, with an hardware component, you are able to connect your own private infrastructures to the cloud, and to have, thanks to this connector, the view of one single and complete network for your own usage. So the benefit, I already talked about the benefit. It's mainly about how we manage the quality of service and how we can ensure this quality of service. And finally, since we are currently working with 4 national DC and we are starting regional DC, our project is an open project. So if at any time companies or for instance, regional data centers, operators, something like that, want to join our effort in order to have a mesh spread all over the French territories or European one, if it makes sense. We are open to discussion. We are an open project. We use only open source resources. So feel free to contact me, and I hope to be able to discuss with you later. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.